Yo, what up? This is your boy Joe Brown.
And your boy Chad Glover.
Welcoming you to the Knowledge Discussion Podcast, aka
The KnoD.
Yo, what's up? This is Joe Brown. Welcoming you to another KnoD. What's up, Chad?
What's up, brother? How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Chad. You know I never say this. Never.
Ever.
But I am super excited about the guest we have. I mean, crazy excited. And I never say that. I never, ever say that, do I, Chad?
Never, ever. I've never heard that before, ever.
Every episode. At least.
Chad, who do we have?
So today we have Katie Burr, Senior Director of Respiratory Care, Sleep Medicine, and Clinical Engineering at Nemours Children's Health. And we have Kristi Burns, Assistant Director of Respiratory Care Services at Emory University Hospital, Midtown.
So y'all hear that? We have respiratory therapists in the house. And for those of you probably know, but if you don't, I am a respiratory therapist also. And Chad Glover's son is also a respiratory. So we all going to be in the respiratory world for this episode. Katie, how are you doing this afternoon?
You know what? I'm having a great day. It feels like a Monday, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks for bringing the energy. Thanks for inviting us to be on. I'm excited.
And Kristi, how are you doing?
Doing exceptionally well. I heard somebody else say that, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna take that.
I like
I'm doing
that.
exceptionally well. Glad to be here. Thank y'all for the opportunity.
No worries.
All right. So when we're talking about exceptional, I think a respiratory therapist actually, especially since that was my preferred career choice. So what I do know is most people don't you're not in fifth grade saying I want to be a respiratory therapist, at least most of us. So I guess I'll start with Kristi since you're right there. Why did you become a respiratory therapist? How'd you end up here?
You know, for me, and I know everybody has the whole story about, I started out in nursing and then I went over to respiratory therapy. My original track was nursing. I knew that I wanted to be in healthcare. I have a passion for caring for others. So I did start out in nursing, but what made me pivot was I applied to the program and they told me there were no slots left. And then they mentioned, just wait till next year. No worries, wait till next year and you'll be good to go. And I said, absolutely not. I will be graduating in 4 years. And that's it. So I said, let me just go do my own research. We'll kind of figure this out because the 4 years is the goal for me, right? So I went and looked into exercise science, which I know you all have heard of that. And then after looking into exercise science, I said, respiratory therapy. I said, what is this about? So I found a program at the time. It was called Medical College of Georgia. I think it's like Augusta University now or something of that nature. Ended up contacting them and got in the program. But as I was in the program, I realized a few things. I'm able to work with patients from the waist and above versus the waist and below.
Check up.
I'm also able to still be at the bedside, still have, show the compassion, be there for the family members and everything else. But I'm able to make sure that people know their why and kind of go, a little bit further than that. And yeah, so I mean, I pretty much said this is where I'm supposed to be. Respiratory therapy, even though it didn't, like I said, start out that way, based off of the program and everything that I went through, I said, this is it. This is a passion of mine.
Katie. And I've never asked you this as long as I've known you. How'd you end up in respiratory?
I, growing up, didn't want to be a respiratory therapist. If you asked my parents, they would have told you I was definitely going to be a lawyer. I love to argue. For a period of time as a young child, I wanted to be a marine biologist. And so, I think my life evolved. I got pregnant when I was 15. And while my son was little, my grandmother was in a car accident. Her and my grandfather, they went locally to a scratch and dent place to pick up appliances. And when they were there kind of picking things up, they brought their truck and they said, we're going to take them home with us. And so my grandmother was at the loading dock kind of telling my grandfather, back up, back up. She's about 5 foot tall, standing on her tippy toes. And so he ran the truck into her and pinned her between the loading dock wall and the back of the pickup truck. And she was very short. She couldn't wave her hand. She was pinned between the wall. And by the time they realized that something was wrong, obviously she was very not okay. So she had a flail chest, multiple fractured ribs, pulmonary contusions, cardiac issues, and she was in a local hospital for many, many months before she went to rehab. She's alive and well today, doing wonderfully, still loves my grandfather who passed away last year. But I think while I was trying to figure out what to do with my life with a young baby, knowing I couldn't go to school for forever and I needed to quickly be able to care for him, I spent a lot of time in the hospital with her. And the people who I saw at the hospital who were the happiest were respiratory therapists. They were always bebopping in and out. They were always happy to interact. They were always cracking jokes and smiling. And there was not another profession of healthcare providers, at least where I was and what I experienced, who had joy and humor in the work that they did. And I appreciated that. And I saw that our local community college had that program. I applied while she was still in the hospital. And she helped to support me to get through the program. She helped watch my oldest, who's now in the Air Force stationed in Japan. But it's been such a fun journey, not one that I picked out from a very young age, but it's evolved fantastically over time, and I wouldn't pick anything else today to be doing.
Yeah. I mean, I did not know what a respiratory therapist was at all until I went into the military, went to the Army as a medic. And I went in it was gone from a conflict to a war. And they were trying to find a way to get full-time people to go. I mean, part-time people, meaning reservists, to go full-time. So they started exposing us to other professions. And they introduced me to this thing called respiratory therapist. I followed this amazing RT. And we were in units, and I remember like this one particular girl in a burn unit. She was sent over from Iraq, and she wouldn't do anything unless he came in because she was tricked. And like she didn't want to get up unless he came. She didn't want to do this unless he came. And I just was like, man, and he would float in like Superman. We'd take care of people, everybody be happy, kind of like high five out, and we just roll out and leave.
Right.
And I was like, I caught the bug immediately. Only thing was, I was like, I'm not going full time. I'm gonna stay reserves. So I came home, found the program worked, and found a program, and then and put myself through respiratory school. Rest history. I guess, Chad, was your son like telling you when he was 5, Dad, I want to be a respiratory?
No, not at all, not at all. My son actually tried to go my path. I mean, I'm an IT guy. I'm not a people. I am a people person, but like medical people person, that's not my thing.
Yeah.
Never has been, never would be, right? But my son tried to kind of go in the path of respiratory therapy. Like I'm just like IT stuff, and it just really wasn't his jam, right? So he came home, and I was like, hey, you need to figure it out. You need to go into either the military, get a regular job, or I have a friend that could probably let you do some shadowing. And Joel set him up to do shadowing with a bunch of type of professions and whatnot. Respiratory therapy was the first one, and he came home. It's like, Dad, this is it. This is the one I want. I'm like, you didn't do I don't want to do anything else but that. So it was a calling for him, and he loves it, and he's doing very successful with it.
True story. I had him set for respiratory day 1. He was supposed to go see rad techs. He was supposed to go in the OR, and he was supposed to go to the lab. And he came the first day, came to me at lunch, and I was like, all right, so we're going to do these other ones. He was like, no, I'm leaving. I'm going to be a respiratory therapist. I was like, but what? And then Chad calls me. He's like, what did you do to that boy? I was like, what? He had transferred that night to the respiratory program.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sir.
And now, how long has he been practicing now?
Man, I guess it's got to, because he started basically on COVID, so I guess it's 5 years now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So speaking of COVID, because that was his, he actually was a student during COVID. So his son was part of the work as a student because we need you. So that speaks to like the rough part. So getting to be a respiratory therapist, what would you say was the part where you got to, it could be personal or from school, that you were like, I don't know if I can do this? Because I think we all had that moment where we thought that, it might be too tough. There might be some external things that are slowing us up. Did you guys have any of those?
Adult care.
I'm gonna have to agree with her. It definitely
So
wasn't
don't
Adult,
worry
healthcare.
about
adult
it.
care for
Uh,
sure. During clinicals, I mean, I think respiratory school, everything made sense. Everything was clicking. It all felt purposeful. My first clinical rotations were in adult care, and I remember leaving rooms feeling so frustrated, which was the absolute opposite of what I ever thought I would feel doing this job. And it, um, it was adults. My first week in a pediatric hospital, I went from adult bedsides, like rolling my eyes when someone would refuse their treatments or telling me they needed to go to the bathroom or they wanted to eat their breakfast first. And almost literally the first patient I saw in a pediatric hospital, I entered the room to give their treatment at the same time their breakfast arrived. And instead of rolling my eyes and turning away, I was cutting pancakes and putting butter and syrup on them and telling him I would be back in 15 minutes and take all the time he needs. And I knew that that was where I was supposed to be. And I've spent my entire career with pediatrics because of it. So adults, it was adults for me. And it's
I'm gonna
still
have to.
adult now. When someone in my family is in an adult hospital, I get the same feeling and the same frustrations. Yes,
Yeah, yeah, and the
Mhm.
family's always gonna come to you, right?
Mhm.
all
No
the
matter
time,
what,
every
all the
question.
time.
Mhm.
Do you know what
Yeah,
I could do about this mole on my arm?
yeah,
I fell
yeah,
yesterday and my hip still hurts. I'm just like,
right.
yep,
Right.
let's
Mhm.
I
figure
just
it
had a
out
cousin
together.
call me earlier mentioning, she said, my thyroid, my lymph nodes are swollen. And I was like, okay, what other symptoms you got for me?
Mhm.
And she couldn't really tell me. I said, well, just go to urgent care, go to your primary care, make a doctor's appointment, and then come back and let me know, and then maybe I can help you, with the aftermath. But I think my story is similar to yours. I started out in Northside Hospital. I'm not sure if you all heard of that. It's in the heart of Atlanta, but it's known as the Baby Factory. And
Mhm.
so they actually have an assignment for a therapist to do nothing but deliveries for the entire night.
Oh
And
my.
so I think the most deliveries I have been on, maybe 25 deliveries in one night. And you do not have a doctor present unless it is necessary, where you're having, triplets or anything of that nature. But um, called to the bedside. I remember I was getting meconium, I mean, back to back to back. And, you can really make or break a baby's life when it comes to not following the right process with those individuals. And, knowing that you got to intubate, suction first, and then that you got all these different protocols and policies changing. And I stuck to what I knew. And still, I just felt like I was drained after then. And I was like, I don't know if this is the route. Maybe I need to go back to adults. Maybe I need to find peace or figure it out from there. But I think that I had a similar situation as she mentioned, um,
Yeah.
where I felt like, oof.
I guess I would have to count two. I had to, number one, when I started my hospital rotations, it was tough for me because it was a Monday through Friday. And the way Millersville's program goes, you do all your classwork first, then you have a summer set, two summer sessions, a fall session, and a winter session where you're just rotating through hospitals. You only go to class one day, and the rest of the
Mm,
time you're just rotating. Which for everyone else that was great because they got to feel like they were working. Well, I had a I had an apartment. I was living on my own. I
Mhm.
had bills, and so that meant I could not really work like the way I was working full time as a medic the whole time I was in respiratory school. And then now I'm in a situation where I got to figure out like how to pay my bills.
Mhm.
So that was the one. Patient wise, it was when we did our rotation at Lehigh Valley, and it was the burn unit. That burn unit, and especially coming from the military where I was on a burn unit there, and then having to like we had to do the burn unit every. You had to pick the other places, but then you had to do that those few days on the burn unit, and it just haunted me being in that unit. Being in that unit, I think I can't remember if it was 2 days or 3 days you had to do out of the five, but it felt like a month that I was there, and I wanted out bad, especially when and they made you go in the OR with them, and you're putting on this the OR is like 100 degrees and you're putting on this vest to keep you cool and you're sweating while they're doing the surgery because they can't maintain their temperature. It was not good. It was definitely one of them points where I was like, is this what I want? And then later I did, you have that moment and I'm like, I don't know too many places that even have a burn unit. The reality is I'm never gonna have to work in here. And that was the case. I never had to work in a burn unit again. So That was,
God bless the people who do,
That's right.
and
man,
all
oh
the
man.
ones who take care of the adults and the ones who don't want to take care of the babies. I think that's what makes respiratory awesome
It
as a
does.
profession, is that we can each find something that we're passionate about and
Mhm.
specialize in it and really work to elevate that space professionally in a way that aligns with our needs. And I don't know that that happens in every profession, so that's been awesome.
Right.
Fabulous.
And I used to tell some of the students when I was the educator that, when they were kind of trying to figure out if this was the right path for them, when it comes to respiratory, you're able to be like, know a lot about one particular subject. But when it comes to nursing, you know a little bit about a lot. So you're specialized, and that's what that means. And so you're like, okay, that's a good perspective, a good way to look at it. But you're right.
Yeah.
You have a lot to offer as therapists.
Chad, in your world, like, I mean, I would assume, I mean, because I know Caswell does cybersecurity. I'm not even sure what you do this time. Like, Chad, I just know you do computer stuff. So, like, do you have that kind of variety, or did you run into a space where you're like, I don't think I want to do this?
Yeah, so I've been in IT for 30 years. Probably
He
over.
started when he was 2, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
Me
that's
too.
definitely. I'm 32 totally. And I remember my first job. I wasn't initially trained. I was a paralegal. Uh, and I was working as a paralegal, and I was like, man, this is really not what I want to do. And there was a guy who ran the IT department. He was like, you don't have any IT experience. I said, I mean, I'm gonna learn it on my own and whatnot. And I started basically doing the physical stuff, which is like hooking up the computers, the routers, and I was like, man, I really don't want to do this part of it. I really want to do the programming part. I think that's where the future is. That's where our money. That's my passion is. And I was doing it on the side. And I went to the guy that was running the head of IT, and I was like, "Hey, I don't have any experience with this, but I want to give me 1 month of doing IT stuff. I've self-taught myself, and if I'm good at it, you pay me at whatever you pay the other programmers, and I'll never have to go back to being paralegal again." So that's how my journey went into IT, but it was basically driven off the anti thing. I didn't want to like just be a paralegal for the rest of my life, and it just wasn't my passion. Mhm.
Chad just logged off. Our IT guy.
You know where the volume button is now, Chad?
There you go.
Disappear.
All right. So I guess the question now is, we're all in leadership, and we all have like role. Basically, we're in spaces where the majority of people are not, right? So I guess I'll start with you, Kristi. When did you know, or when did you go, you know what? I think I'm going to become a leader. I think I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to go that route.
I think I'm gonna go that route. Um, I would say mine was in my later years, and I'm gonna bring out my later years because I feel like it's a difference in recognizing that you have the potential to be a leader, and then believing means claiming it, owning it, that I'm going to actually go for something with the title. So I feel like early on, in my earlier years, I felt led to be a leader because I felt like I was changing mindsets. I was put in spaces where I didn't necessarily um I was able to help with the operationals, the workflow of things and things of that nature, but then when it came to the actual individuals themselves, their mindsets were changing. So the perspective calling me for being the calm and chaotic situations like codes and things of that nature, that's when I realized, okay, I need to step up to the plate because I didn't have the title then, and actually, maybe I can go ahead and just, apply to be the next supervisor and start there. So I would say it started early, but I felt like the longer that I worked and I basically gained more experience under my belt, like I said, the pediatrics, the neonates, and everything else, I was able to realize by what I was doing through other people and pulling their best potential out of them, that having an actual title behind it is it was due time. So I hope that answered the question. It did. It came with, a little bit of money. Nothing's wrong with a little bit of money. Right, right, right.
That always helps.
I constantly debate with myself. I'm still deciding every day if I'm a leader or not, but I feel like that's part of the journey. If I had to pick kind of a pivotal moment or something that happened, I tend to really focus on turning negative experiences or negative emotions into positive ones. And so when I started my respiratory career, I was a night shift respiratory therapist for about 3 years. And I was the first person in my family to go to college, to graduate college, to walk across the stage. And so I graduated college thinking I accomplished something here. I have
By the way, she's working on a PhD now, but go ahead.
but but
Congrats, congrats,
I had a
congrats.
teen pregnancy. I've now graduated college. So when I started my career, I had just gotten married, just bought a house, had, a baby. I thought I was at like the top of the world. I didn't need to go back to school. I didn't need to get more credentials. I didn't need to do anything. Like I was already like the pinnacle of my family. And so there was no pressure to do anything else. And about 3 years in, there was a job opening that I applied for, and there were two leadership roles, one over the emergency department and one over our technology dependent spaces. And I knew I really liked one of those areas and I didn't really like the other. But I decided I was going to apply for both of those positions because I'm going to start making a way for myself and I see this as an opportunity. And I didn't get either of them. And I was pissed. Like the world was ending. I put myself out there. I was so vulnerable. Like, how dare they not choose me? And so that kind of, as I worked through the grief and the emotions in that process, I took my RRT, I took my MPS, I went back to school for my bachelor's, I updated my resume, and I stopped right before I started applying for other roles. And then something else became available within my organization. And then I was able to obtain a clinical educator role, which has kind of helped me get to where I am. But I think it was ultimately like if there was one moment, it was feeling like I wasn't worthy or I didn't have the skills or I wasn't adequate enough. And in my brain, it was, well, how do I get all those things so next time no one can say that or make me feel that way? Um, and every step of the way, I've kind of drug my feet a little bit, and I've gotten a lot of encouragement from other leaders and mentors who say, "Yeah, you're ready. You probably should do something else." Joel is one of those people, and I'm sitting where I am today because of encouragement that he provided. But ultimately, I think it's those feelings of like feeling stuck and frustration where you don't
Yeah.
have control over everything that you want to change in a positive way, and then using that to kind of to get to a better place, whether that includes you or it doesn't. In my case, sometimes it has. And, it's been awesome to see that progression and to live the growth within myself.
No, that's
It's
interesting
good.
because I found myself getting placed in positions, right? So I
Mhm,
got placed into charge to a charge therapist 6 months after I started, like
mhm.
6 months of a RT, and I was made charge, and then I worked my way up to be like being the PICU clinical specialist, and then I applied for two roles that I didn't get. I didn't get a assistant director role, and I didn't get an educator role. And to me, I think it's the roles you don't get
Mhm.
is where you really see if you're a leader or not, right? Is that enough to crush you and make you think, okay, I'm not going to do it anymore? Or is that enough to motivate you? And I've found my motivation to be this, and it's still the same, as I truly believe if you're not part of the solution, you are the problem. You're not part of it. You are. And so every time when I've taken a role, like I would see someone that's in that position or the position's vacant, and I'm like, man, I can make a difference. And I'm not going and if I'm especially if I'm complaining about the conditions, and I'm like, either I'm going to be in that role and be part of it, or I'm just as bad as everybody else. And that is pretty much has led every time when I went for promotion was me going, all right, I got to be either the person that's part of the solution or the example. Like there's no one else that's a respiratory therapist that's done this. I'm going to do that, right? That kind of thing. So, yeah, Chad.
Yeah. For me, leadership has pretty much always been a calling. I can't go into rooms with large people and not people pick me as the leader. Like it just happens naturally, no matter what I am. So I'm president of my fraternity. I've been VPs and directors at large organizations. It just happens for me. I think it's because I just have a voice and people seem to like my personality. So ultimately, and I'm talented, and I build a culture no matter where I go where people want to follow. I've been leading. I mean, I started my first job probably
Oh, you
30
were
years ago,
two.
and
It's
like you,
crazy.
Joel, like 3 months in, they were like, "Hey, can you run this whole project? And once you've done it, can you be the manager of the whole team?" So it's just, I was when I was two, like just rolled out of the room and started leading. So it's been my passion, but there's a
I got
responsibility
one
that
here.
comes
And
with
remember, you
that,
guys can
in
ask
terms of
questions too,
leading
but
organizations,
here's
but
one.
also helping
What was
people
your most
become
either
better
most
versions of
embarrassing
themselves.
or
And I
funny
enjoy
moment
that
you
that part
had
of it.
as a leader?
I wore two different shoes to work one day. I didn't notice until I was actually, I wouldn't have noticed if no one told me. Thank God someone told me. I had on like a camouflage print shoe and a black shoe. It wasn't even like navy and black.
I
It
was
was
going to say that's
a print
drastically
shoe
different. But
and a black shoe. And after huddle in the morning, someone came and told me, I think you have two different shoes on. And I was like, I do. I wanted to get in my car and drive home and change my shoes. I promise you I did, but I finished the day in two different shoes and I still laugh at it. And I blame my husband because he likes to sleep in the morning when I'm waking up at the butt crack of dawn to get to work. And so I do so very quietly and in the dark and thus didn't know that I had two different color shoes on. Yeah.
mine is mine was earrings. I mean, that's as bad as it got, other than the fact of being in a meeting and
But yeah, Christy.
misspeaking or trying to crack a funny and no one's laughing. No one thinks that it's funny. And I'm the only person that thinks I'm comical. So yeah, I mean, uh, two different earrings is about all I got.
Uh,
Right.
it wasn't funny, but it was definitely embarrassing. I was charge therapist and I was ex-military. Y'all gotta look, I'm third generation Army. And so I just was not used to excuses, right? Like you came to work no matter what. Like, and I remember I got a call and it was, back then, page first, and I called them back and they're like, and so this person was like, I can't come to work tonight from 3 to 11. I said, what's going on? They're like, my cat is sick. And I just bust out laughing. I thought they were joking. I was like, you
Wow.
think that's hilarious? No, for real. And the person just burst out in tears. It was like, my cat is sick. I can't believe you laughed at me. Oh, I was so embarrassed. And it taught me a lesson in empathy because to me, like, I just never had anybody like you came to work no matter what, right? And something secondary to you. Like even if like people called and said they were sick, I was like, yeah. So what time we expect you to be here? So I was so embarrassed because I had the next day I had to apologize. I actually went to one of the other charge therapists and was like, so this happened. They were like, yeah, her cats are everything to her. That's how she is. Like she is. This person was in her like probably in her 50s then. Like she didn't have
Oh,
she didn't have family. Like her cats
her
were
cats are her everything.
yeah. And I just
I
I missed the ball on that. I was so embarrassed. So
uh,
yeah.
I often mistype my last name as Butt instead of Burr. So there's that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Kristi, you're ahead of it because mismatched earrings are the thing right now.
See?
They actually make they
It
actually
happened
make
years ago. I wish I would have
mismatched butt.
known,
Yeah.
I've started wearing studs because, you can't really get wrong with that. And then if they
Oh,
are, the smaller they are, the
nice.
less you'll
Okay.
notice. So I said, we'll stick away
Mm,
from that. But
I
yeah.
also blame my husband for butt too because my name before I got married was
mm,
way cooler. So Dave Burr
Hmm.
takes a lot of the
Yeah.
brunt of mistakes that
good
happen
stuff.
in my life.
Right. Now I did respond to an email one time, and instead of so say it's from Joel. So instead of saying thank you, Joel, I said thank you, Christy, in the response to and I said, wow, okay.
Think about yourself on that one, huh?
Yeah.
You're a big deal, Kristi.
Mm, 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 mm. Yeah.
So I guess
Yeah.
the one question I asked you guys. So Chad, you're director. Katie, you're director. Kristi, you're director. My favorite question.
You were a director.
What's next for y'all?
I'm going to speak more from the entrepreneurial side. I have a passion for like leadership development and it doesn't have to be it could be from the simplest of knowing your leadership style, going over active listening, things of that nature. And I truly felt like I found this passion more so in the role that I am right now, with having a larger team to have to manage versus in my younger years when I was a director of business development. I had to use my RT background in order to get that role, but I feel like this position with managing over like 120 people, the 8 supervisors that I have, because we had more of a structural change going on within the past few months, I've been able to really, really pour into them because they have been more so clinical, not having any admin responsibilities. So they wouldn't really know how to have that crucial conversation. They didn't really know how to approach staff once things were happening. They didn't really know how to give feedback or when do I report up because they were strictly clinical. So I developed this respiratory visionaries group in order to invest in them, and I made it voluntary to where if you don't choose to do this yourself, then you're not going to get what you don't put into it versus saying this is mandatory and you have to come to this. But I say all that to say that I want to take that group to the community. Like it starts here, but I want to take it out to the community. I have a few other ideas where I want to invest more in women in corporate America. Nothing against you, Chad and Joel, but want to invest more in women. And um, I have like some retreat ideas that have kind of been, I've been going back and forth and brainstorming on um, podcasts and different things of that nature. But really, the core of it is still leadership development. So that's kind of what's next to me. And then, like I said, it's kind of branching out of, you know, my current role and more of a entrepreneurial thing.
Joel knows I hate this question.
That's why
Uh,
I asked it.
Love it.
I still have not decided
Love
what
it.
I want to
How
do
about
when
you,
I grow
Katie?
up. Um, I I find purpose and joy in helping others achieve the most that they can achieve. And, because I entered my career as a respiratory therapist and I'm still deeply passionate about that, whatever I can do to help RTs take over the world is like I find joy and energy in that. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
what seat I'll be at the table when something amazing happens, but I know that's what I'm striving for. Joel
Okay.
mentioned I'm currently in school as a doctoral candidate for my doctorate in strategic leadership, and I'll be finished in December. So currently finalizing that project and ready to present hopefully within the next few months. Um, I have
Nice.
no clue what I'm even going to do with my time when I finish that. And so I tend to find things that fill my bucket and to help me feel fulfilled, but I'm very much like work hard, play hard. I I need a good balance. I schedule a rot day once a month while my kids are in school, and I literally don't shower, don't change out of pajamas, order DoorDash, watch TV on Netflix, do nothing. Like that is the agenda. But
Mhm.
I need a day like that every once in a while to recharge. And I don't know what that's going to look like when I don't have
Nice.
school and other things like taking up extra time. So I'm just trying to navigate life. I got a kid in the military, one going into high school. Every day feels like a new challenge, and I'm relearning something again because my kids are a little bit further apart, and I'm just enjoying the ride.
Mm. Yeah, I understand that.
Oh, dang. I was hoping y'all would go. Okay. Um, so, I want to continue, ruling the world. No, I'm joking. Now I'm in my give back, season, so I've done well over the years, put myself in a pretty good position. So now volunteer space is where I'm really spending a lot of my time. I mean, for my business, I do a 20 hour rule. Like as soon as I start doing more than 20 hours a week, I'm ready to hire somebody. So, I'm in my give back. So what's that look like? Nonprofits, my own nonprofit, AARC. I mean, I guess I could say my what's next is hopefully to become the next president of the AARC. And I'm truly just in that give back moment, you know. So I am trying to give back to spaces that helped me or spaces that I saw there was a need that still is unfulfilled. My nonprofit is the need unfulfilled. The give back spaces that help me is, you know, being a respiratory therapist changed my life, allowed me to take care of people, feel good about what I do, and have the time to run a business on the side. So I just see it as an opportunity for many. And then from my nonprofit, it's kids like me that grew up in a rough situation, maybe not had all the privileges sitting in front of them, and then being able to give them a scholarship and some mentoring to help them get there.
And then for me, it's really I can continue to try to grow my business, Glover Tech. But beyond that is to write. I think there's an opportunity to just tell a story in different ways to different people. So I have lots of stories, lots of manuscripts in my head that I want to get out.
That be, that makes me think. All right, so have you guys had a moment where your philosophy changed? Like an experience where you're like, I used to really believe strongly about this, and now I'm thinking something totally different.
Corporate America used to believe everybody earned their spot, and I realized that that's not the reality. It's really, I've learned over time, it's sometimes not
And
about
there's a
what you know, but who you know, and the networks that you can tap into to get you
right,
to where you need
right.
to get to.
Have y'all heard the story circulating around about how Obama mentioned that uh, he's been doing so much to, make it to the role that he had at that time, but then when he finally made it to the top, he looked around the room and he was like, "These are just ordinary people. These are just, it's nothing spectacular about it." And it made me realize too that it's not really about like who's in the room or what the room is or that makes it magical. It's me. So if I truly believe that, then act accordingly, right? So I've just tried to, step in that and it goes back to, what you've mentioned as well. It's not about, titles, and sometimes it is about, who you know, but then again, it's like when you finally make it up there, and it's not even that I'm in a certain status of what Obama was referring to, but there have been times like in previous roles, especially like my first leadership role, which was at like 26 years old, where I was the youngest at the table. I was the director of business development. So like I said, I didn't necessarily have to work as a clinician at the bedside, but I still had to take my clinical expertise and say, okay, you meet qualifications and you don't. And I remember sitting in these boardrooms and it would be exactly like what you see in the movies. So it'll be about 20 of us, and I was sitting at the end. They would purposefully look over me. They would go around the entire room, speak to everyone, and then ask me for my opinion at the end. And it was like an aha moment, like, oh, I actually like her idea better than everyone else. And they ended up going with it, but they put me through the agony of waiting to be last and things of that nature. So, it's just, it wasn't about, like I said, the title at the time, but it definitely made me realize some things.
Katie.
Mm, I've definitely had some moments in my career where you aspire to have a seat at the table and then the restaurant changes.
Mm.
Or right, so I think that has been kind of a harder part for me in leadership is thinking, oh, if I could only get a seat at that table. And then by the time you're ready to go sit down, right, the place setting's been removed, the table's somewhere different, the
Hmm.
room is somewhere different, and keeping up with the politics of leadership, I agree with what you guys have said. It definitely is about relationships and who you know. Um, but there's always this unfulfilledness of like there's more to do and there's more places to be and there's more work to be done that I don't know if I'll ever feel satisfied in any one role or one space. And I think like knowing that about myself as a human has helped me realize like what's reasonable and realistic and what's not. And those things probably would have cost me a whole lot of stress and energy early on in my career. And they still take up some mental capacity for me. I will tell you
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
but not nearly what they did when I was a younger leader.
Mm-hmm.
I would say for me, early in my medic career, I realized that everybody has 1,000 problems until they get sick and ready to die. Then you only have one, right? And it made me start thinking about like what's important. Like, I love Jalen Hurts, quarterback for
Go
the
Birds.
Philadelphia Eagles, best team. Yeah, but he said one of his quotes is "Keep the main thing the main thing." Right, and so it just taught me about distraction, what really matters, right? So like when you're down as a leader, down as a person, just going back to what really matters helps you like sift through all the noise, all the noise. That and I mean, with that same thing, I'd also found that everybody, not everybody, but many folks that say they don't believe in God definitely ask for the for the local preacher when they at their deathbed,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like, first, that's the first thing and so it's like, I had a situation where there was a patient I was taking care of
That's
that,
something.
was major atheist until he was like within his last few days. And then he was asking for a preacher. So, it's like, stay focused.
You say that because I am literally right now in a season of refocusing. Literally what you just said, focusing on what truly matters, finding out what truly matters, and then focusing only on that. But then not only that, focusing on God and leaving out all of the distractions, not worried about what the next person is saying over there in that meeting, not worried about whether I was even invited to the meeting and I was supposed to be there. Not worried about, what the team says or whether I get my thanks, because sometimes I believe in these positions, they're thankless positions. So you
Mm-hmm.
don't get the accolades all the time. But you have to know within yourself that you're doing a good job. I show up every day. I do the best that I can do. If I say I love helping others, hopefully it shows more in my actions than it does my words. And then I kind of go from there. But right now, in this moment, I'm in a moment of refocusing, focusing only on the Lord, seeing the path that He has for me,
Mm-hmm.
and then leaving out all of the distractions, showing up as my best self every day.
So great question is that how do you do all the things we talked about and have a family? Because there's a lot of people who go, I don't want to be with leadership, man, because
Yeah.
of all these things we talked about this whole time.
Hmm.
And then, like Katie, you mentioned, you have like, how do you balance it?
You don't do it all
Yeah.
well all the time. Promise you that. So humility and being able to ask for help. I would not be able to do what I do every day to be where I'm at professionally if I didn't have the support of my family and my kids.
Hmm.
My husband works from home. He's a saint. He puts our kids on the bus every day. He irons clothes. He packs lunches. I couldn't be at work at six
He
o'clock.
puts up with Katie. He is a saint, by the
He
way.
does put up with me. Um,
Don't worry, Katie. They say the same thing about me.
Shout out to
Don't
Dave.
worry.
Shout out to Dave.
they do. But I think it's often it's often this chaotic balance of like when you're killing it at work, you're
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
dropping the ball at
I've heard the
home
same story about
and
Jay.
having the support you need there to help pick things up. And when you feel like you're killing it at home, you're probably dropping some things at work and having the team that you need there to help with that balance. Where it gets complicated is everyone's living that, right? We're all humans, we all have problems, we all have priorities, we're all trying to balance. And so it's just about being authentic and vulnerable and sharing um, and connecting in a way so that it doesn't feel uneven. My issues are not more important than Kristi's or Chad's, maybe Joel's, but not everything, right? And so I can't always be the person who's asking for help. I also have to be in a position where I can give help and we can burden life together and we make it easier to do together. I don't think there is anyone who is alive who's killing it in all things everywhere, and if they are, they're lying or they're an alien. So,
Yeah,
take your pick.
I agree with that. And then giving yourself grace. I had to learn to give myself grace. Um, like you mentioned, no one's perfect. And I have 4 children, 12, 9, 5, and 3. So I feel like I just had the 3-year-old yesterday. And when I had her, it was right around COVID, right after COVID. And I remember saying, I need a break. I don't want to lead nobody. I don't want to talk to nobody. Respiratory, I may be at burnout at this point. I'm not sure what's going on, but I had to learn to give myself grace. Okay, Kristi, reground yourself. Like what's happening here? And I do have a lot of help, like you mentioned. Um, I know that I've actually had like a lot of friends who say, Kristi, you're supposed to be doing this with the kids and you got to do this and you have this. I am okay with saying that my husband does majority of everything. So he is the one, like you said, Katie, packing the lunches, getting them on the bus. I try not to miss the important moments, but um, he's the one that's helping me. We have a great support system with family. So we have at least 4 households here within a 15-minute time frame that we're able to take the kids to. Some of it's spontaneous where I can say, "Hey, I got something coming up at work. Can you help us out here?" And then some of it we do pre-plan. And I've always told everyone that I am not one to hold on to my PTO. I don't have PTO. It's gone. It's used. Like it doesn't exist for me. I make sure that I take my
That's right.
vacations. I make sure that, and it'll be family vacations, and maybe like I just came off of one with it was just me and my husband. But I make sure to use my PTO. They say that girl knows she gonna go somewhere, and I am. I'm going somewhere, even if it's just a staycation, like you said, Katie. Relaxing. I know that there's nothing to do, and I don't have to put my mind to anything. So a lot of support and a lot of grace is what I'd say.
I'm gonna learn from you because I think I'm sitting with 320 hours in my PTO bank,
Oh,
girl.
no, no,
Katie Burr.
no.
Katie Burr.
Oh, you got to take that PTO.
Yeah.
Take that time. Take that time. You can't take PTO when you're in the grave. That's no good. Yeah, for me, do delegate, delete, as best I can. And as a leader, I believe in creating other leaders within organizations, right? So if I have leaders that I trust, then sometimes I don't need to be the guy taking the bullets. My other leaders can take the bullets for me because I trust them, and they gonna run through walls to support me. And when I'm there, and when they're not there, I'll protect them in rooms that they need me to protect them in. So just kind of trying to balance it appropriately to get the outcomes that I need. Like you said, sometimes you're going to drop some balls and you don't have to say mad culpa, in the moments. But, in my world, nobody dies, right? So because nobody dies, it's not that serious.
I don't want to lose 10 million ever, but that's all good. Now, I learned over the years, and you guys have heard me mention this, some of you guys, but I call it perfectly imbalanced, right? Because there is no work-life balance. It doesn't exist. Numerically, it cannot exist. If you spend 8 to 10 hours at work, you sleep for at least 6, right? It only leaves a couple hours to be with everybody else, right? So with this, and it's funny you guys say like juggling. I use the scenario of and Katie, I think you've seen the video that I take this off of, but the guy was juggling axes, and he was saying that there's 2 things important when you're juggling axes. The one you release, because you got to make sure you release it with care so it comes back down in the right spot, and the one you're catching. The rest of them are in the air, you're not really paying attention to. Jugglers only watch 2 objects, the one they're letting go and the one they're catching. And that's how you got to be. When I'm at work, I'm focused on work. And when I let work go, I let it go with care. And I catch family, I'm focused on family. I move that over. And when I let family go out with care, then there's your spiritual health, your physical health, your hobbies, all those things you're doing. But the key is that if you just focus on it. For example, my kids had the impression when they were teenagers and when they were like in junior high school that I spent a whole lot of time with them. I usually got home. I would leave at 5:30 in the morning, and sometimes Kate could tell you I'd be at work sometimes at 4:30 in the morning, and I would come home to get them off the bus or whatever, and then I spent about 3-4 hours with them, 3 hours, and then they would go when they were to go take their bath. I logged on and start working, but during those 3 hours, no, I did not allow anyone to interrupt it. So it gives them it's when you're distracted. Like you're
Right.
trying to type, okay, don't do it, y'all sit down. Right? That's when the kids feel like, and your family feels like you're there. So I would say, and the same thing at work. My whole family knew, don't call me while I'm at work
No.
unless the house is literally burning down. And after that, make sure you try to put it out before you call me. Right? Like, don't call me because when I'm at work, I gave the same focus. And then I just got really clear, like for my team, do not like don't call me unless the building's burning down and I'm on call. Like if it's burning down, I'm not on call. Leave me alone.
Call me.
So
Right.
you really have to. I mean, there's only about 4 to 5 hours you have really that you're not sleep or work. So whenever you have them, you got to just block everybody out and everything out. Hyper focused. Chad, it's time.
So we only have, so at this time, we do a section called This or That. And if you heard the podcast before, you probably know what it is, but I'll explain it for you anyway. So in This or That, I give you two choices, and you have to give me one or the other out of those two choices. Neither is not an option. Both is not an option.
Okay. Fair enough.
And
Do it, Chad.
if we all agree, we just move on to the next one. But if we disagree, you have to explain why. Okay? All right. So
Game night.
I'll
Karaoke.
start with the easy stuff.
Karaoke.
Let's see. Karaoke night or
Easy.
game night?
That was the easy one.
Come on, guys.
Definitely competitive, which is why I say game night, because even though I'm better than Joel and Kristi at karaoke, there'll be a debate about who actually won and whose song was better or who sounded better. So game night, I can win fair and square. Chad and I can be on the same team. We can get first. We'll have trophies made. It's a done deal.
Wow.
Go ahead,
It's
Chris.
karaoke for me. I can actually hold a little tune or two. I'm a part of a band, so we're about to start doing shows and everything. So, karaoke for me. I'm competitive too, but I'm gonna say karaoke. Just a smidge.
Totally competitive, and I can't sing at all, but nothing is better than a karaoke night with the person that can't sing that's trying his best. Like
Yeah.
I love doing, and it's funny because I've only done it a few times, but my favorite one, I was in West Virginia at a country bar. I was there for a conference in West Virginia, and I got up and did Snoop Dogg Gin and Juice in a country bar, and I turned the whole party out. So,
Okay. All right. So you're looking at the outcome.
yeah, this is fun. Go ahead, Chad. Go ahead, Katie.
Be the boss.
Okay. Be the boss or be the star?
I'm gonna say be the star.
I'm gonna be the star. Man, we have separate alignments here. Explain yourselves.
We're just gonna put a line down the middle of
Be
the
the boss.
screen now.
Right,
Chad
right,
and I are
right,
gonna have
right,
our own
right.
show. Okay? Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm well, not surprised, but why be the
Katie,
boss?
we are the cool side. They're not. Well, for me, it's like you. I want to be part of the solution, right? So if I'm the boss, I can make all the decisions and whatnot, and kind of be that. Being a star is like kind of egotistical.
Yeah, similar. No one needs to know who my name is. I just want to see the outcomes. I want to make it better for the team, and I think that that's the seat that gives me the opportunity to do that.
Kristi, explain yourself.
The thing is, if I shine, we all shine. So if I'm the star, it's just like literally the stars in the sky. When one shines, they all shine. You never really pinpoint one star unless it's literally one star in the sky. So I think I had maybe just a different little perspective on it. But yeah, when I shine, we all shine. So I didn't take it as,
Okay.
egotistical.
Yeah, and that's why we do these because everybody takes a different space. And see, like Katie said, she wanted to be the boss because no one knows who the boss is. Everyone knows
fair
who the
enough.
boss is. I look at the star as me being like I see myself as the star if I'm in the background and other people are doing well. Like
That's
to
how I
me,
look
the
at it.
star, like you said, you look in the sky, you don't know which one's lighting up
You don't.
the ground,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the ground is lit. So I like to
That's
be one
right.
of the ones with the light that's letting everybody else shine.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're all shining.
Yep.
All shining. Okay. I get like maybe three
Show
more.
show
Plan
up
a
at the
trip or show up
airport,
at the
Chad.
airport.
Show up at the airport.
I already know the answer for
That's me.
Joel. But-
I'm gonna say, based off my current position
Huh?
in my life, I'm gonna say, plan a trip.
I am 100% show up, and I'm pretty sure Chad's going to tell y'all multiple stories. Go ahead, Chad.
I
Yeah.
know we were doing so good. So here's my thing. I have to think about every detail in every aspect of my job and generally
Yeah.
my life. So my kids
Yeah.
have food and my bills are paid and no one dies. And so when I'm thinking about
Yeah.
vacation, the last thing I want to do is plan. Just tell me where to be and I will be there. I hope there's a beach and a cabana with
Yeah.
drinks.
You want
But
to turn
if
it all
not,
off.
as long as I didn't have to think about it and I could just show
Yeah.
up, love that for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in right now with the titles that I hold as mom and assistant director and everything else, it has to be planned out. I have to thoughtfully put things together. I have to write an email to the team to let them know that I'm gone, let them know, if you need me, I'm still available. Then I got to tell my husband, I got to get there's a lot that goes into it for me. But had you asked me about 10 years ago, I would totally show up. Totally.
Yeah.
Chad, I'll
Yeah.
let you answer for me. Go ahead.
Right. Okay. Okay. Joel. Joel just they call me the trip mom. So Joel and I go on these trips every couple years or whatever, us and our buddies. And Joel basically, I was like, Joel, here's the information. This is where you got to be. This is the time. This is the place. This is the country we're going to. And if I'm not involved in the decision making or putting it down for Joel ends up in the wrong place.
We're still good.
Would you like to tell that story, Joel?
Yeah. Yeah, Chad. The one time I decided I was going to do the trip for my wife and I was going to talk to Trip Mom.
Okay.
That's what we call them. The guys' trips.
I like it.
We
I
call
like it. I
Chad
like
the
it.
Trip
I
Mom.
like it.
So I called Chad. Chad, where should we go? Chad said, yo, you should make a trip to Aruba, is what he said. And I said, okay. So then next thing you know, I book it. I book everything. I'm like, Chad, man, we get ready to roll. I took care of everything. We going first class. We got this. We got this. We're in a over the water bungalow. And Chad went, over the water bungalow? What hotel you staying at? I told him, he's like, man, I've been to Aruba a whole bunch of times. I've never heard of that. Let me look it up. Yeah, I booked the Antigua. I went to a whole nother country.
Country, what? Wow. So did y'all end up in Antigua or did you go to Aruba? What?
A whole nother country. This dude planning is not his thing.
Wow.
It is.
He was
had a good
look,
time.
exactly end up in Antigua.
Well, I've like conferences. I've literally landed in the city before I know what hotel I'm going to. Like I
Summer
don't even look at the hotel until I'm about to order my Uber.
Summer Forum, I actually booked a ticket to Orlando instead of Fort Lauderdale. And it wasn't until one of my other managers said, hey, what flight are you on? Maybe we'll try and get the same one. And I sent it to her like 3 days before we had to be there. And she was like, are you driving from Orlando? And I was like, no, I wasn't planning on it. And she goes, oh, well, that's where you're gonna land. So 4 hours in an Uber. Thankfully, we made a quick change and I realized it before I got there, but I definitely could have been in that spot.
I've done that twice. Yeah.
Mm-mm. Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
That'd be me.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally different places. And then the last one. Chocolate cake or peach cobbler?
Well, I have to choose peach cobbler because one of my other titles is the cobbler queen. I'm actually a chef, so I own a commercial kitchen, and my staple is peach cobbler.
Oh.
So I'll never choose anything other than that.
So peach cobbler, mainly because I like chocolate way more, but I like chocolate just as chocolate. It's rare that I like a chocolate cake versus just chocolate, like in its pure form. So I would go with peach cobbler.
Okay.
Explain yourself, Katie.
You let me down. No, I literally, Linda's fudge cake from the Cheesecake Factory is 7 layers of chocolate cake
Yeah.
with chocolate fudge
Lee
ice
had that.
rolled in mini chocolate chips. I love chocolate. I buy the whole cake every year for my birthday. I'm pretty sure it's $175, and I love every moment of it. Chocolate.
Somebody had that at Summer Forum,
Yes, Lee.
and
Lee
I
ordered
tried
it.
it and I couldn't even finish it. It was
That is
just
my favorite cake.
nah, peach cobbler.
Look into that.
Linda's fudge
By
cake.
the way, that
Yeah.
Chrissy, that was a plan. I told Chad he had to do that one.
Then you all ganged up on me on purpose.
Yeah, it had to be because I'm like, I can't choose anything but peach cobbler.
Your face was hilarious.
It would have
Like,
been so much
what?
better if you said chocolate cake.
Yeah. Like I sent it to him and I wrote that one I typed in. I was like,
Oh, wow. That's funny.
yeah.
Definitely do this. Good stuff. All right, that brings us to the end of our segment. With the one thing for the nod, we like people to give some parting knowledge. So you can give some parting knowledge about anything, any subject that we talked about today, or just in general life advice.
Whole lot of pressure, Chad.
It is.
A whole
Yes,
lot of pressure.
Uh,
I
no
was
pressure.
I was ill prepared for this. So Kristi can go first.
all right. I would say what I would want to leave everyone with is maybe a culmination of kind of different things that we've talked about here is, you know, I think it's beneficial to know your why. And even if your why changes, be aware of that. And that's going to be your driving force. We'd rather be a star than a boss. Also, um, I say this often, but the gift that you have is not for you. It's for the people that you're servicing. And you can take that from a spiritual standpoint. You can take that from whatever title you hold. But I think that that's truly important in knowing that, the gift that you have is not always about valuing yourself or putting yourself first or being that boss. It's about servicing. It's for the people that you actually service. So those will be my tidbits.
I guess so Katie can get a little bit more time. I'll jump right in.
I'm
I
ready
think
now.
it's back to the part that I said earlier. And, I guess if I'm going to have one for this one, and that's that you keep the main thing, right? Everything
Yeah.
matters until you're in a clinch with your life. And then after that, only one thing matters. And I think I truly believe in, like, I don't make plan Bs. I have a plan A that I'm willing to modify. And that's part of being focused on the main thing, right? And so, because to me, if you have a plan B, that's time you're spending planning something that might never happen, or planning for your failure, which changes your mindset. So I believe I have a plan A. I'm just always willing to modify plan A to be successful. So keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah, I think for me, as we think about leadership and venturing into leadership, I
Yeah.
go
And then
back
Katie.
to like the airplane analogy of you have to put your oxygen mask on first. And most of the growth and aha moments I've had as a leader are more about learning myself and how I can bring my best self into spaces to serve others and help them also find their best self. So going back to self growth and being a lifelong learner and learning about why you're feeling the feelings you're feeling and why
Mm-hmm.
you've made the decisions you've made and how you can use that information to better yourself as a human and to go into different interactions differently. I think that's probably been the biggest thing for me as a leader: continual growth, being willing to learn, being vulnerable, reflective, and using that to kind of guide your future.
Chad.
I thought of something I've just always said before. Every second of your life is one second closer to your death. So when you value time like that, everything you do matters. And ultimately you want to help become the best version of yourself.
So you guys are here, but well, by the time you hear it, it's already dropped, so it don't even matter. So as we're going, any last shout outs that you guys would like to give? Chad, I'll start with you and work down the screen. Go ahead, Chad.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Shout out to my wife, Tiffany Glover.
Katie Burr.
Awesome. I'm shouting out Julie Jackson today, who's the co-chair with me of the ARC's Emerging Leader Program this year. It's wonderful to have an awesome partner and to be able to see a committee come together and really care so much about mentoring and growing others. So
Awesome. Kristi?
I love that program, Katie, by the way. I'm one of the mentors. Love it. But I want to give a shout out to my husband because I wouldn't be where I am if he wasn't here to support me with the kids and just having to have time away and everything else. Also, want to give a shout out to my parents, everyone who supports me. And then if you ever need a peach cobbler, Kristi's Heavenly Peach Cobbler, hit me up and I got you.
I'm waiting for a box. We're waiting for a box to come on over here.
That's right.
I got
Do you have a
you.
website? You should shout your website out then.
So
Do you have
I don't have a website because I only do big events. I take personal orders, which is why I had the website. But I do, if you follow me on either Facebook or either Instagram, it's just Kristi's Cobbler, Kristi's_Cobbler. Kristi's Heavenly Cobbler will populate.
You go. And yeah, I'll do a shout out to Arrive Leadership
If you want-
for being a sponsor, and my family. And I'm going to do a special shout out for my youngest, who will be going to law school in a couple weeks. And she is going to be one of the younger law school students, but we're really proud of her. So big shout out to her. So another great episode. Appreciate you guys. Y'all stay on.
See, that's how much